can go pay my rent. I will not be ignorant. I swear if he heaven sent, give me the stimulus. Give me the stimulus. Give me the stimulus so I can go pay my rent. I will not be ignorant. I swear if he heaven sent, give me the stimulus. Give me the stimulus.
In 2020, an exclusive organisation for the world's most powerful people, called Stakeholders, enacted a 10-year transition to a global authoritarian political system called stakeholder capitalism.
It's a funeral of shareholder capitalism, and it's a birth of stakeholder capitalism.
You have shown us the way forward.
One of their agendas by 2030 is to own the food supply chain.
Bill Gates became the largest individual owner of farmland.
According to their reports, this is what they want us to eat.
GMO wheat, every piece of corn I've ever eaten is GMO corn. So these are things that billions of years of using these products have been done. Anyway, these are proven products.
The stakeholders have an initiative to ban livestock.
Cows alone account for about 6% of global emissions. So we need to change cows.
And increase our consumption of
artificial meat, like Impossible or Beyond Meat, both of which I invested in.
We'll have the convenience of printing it from our homes. Or luckily for us,
today the European Commission has officially declared mealworms to be food.
We can choose real meat that's climate change friendly.
Mealworms, crickets, grasshoppers. These tiny insects, just over 2 centimeters long, could be key to feeding the planet.
What in the world?
Looking around too.
Bruh just came out the womb, already know how to live. Already know how to move his head. How old are you?
Not even a full 24 hours yet.
Who are you?
No way.
Mom.
No freaking way.
Is that even normal?
No. She's 3 days old.
Oh my god. Mom, she's crawling.
She knows what to do.
Mom.
I know. Video this.
How is that? I am. How is that even normal? What the heck?
Congress has paid over $17 million in hush money for sexual misconduct inside of the offices in these buildings. What? And what's more is that was taxpayer money, right? The allegation is that President Trump paid $130,000 of his own money. But here in Congress, there may be some on this dais. I mean, I'm for turning loose all of these records. Who in here has had the taxpayer pay for their sexual misconduct charges the hush money? I bet there's some over there. There may be some over here. I don't know, but I do know it's taxpayer money, and I do know not a single penny of it has been turned in as a campaign finance expense. Is the FEC going to investigate the $17 million that Congress has paid to settle, behind closed doors these sexual misconduct allegations?
So much, and I appreciate the speaker for admitting openly on the record that it is unconstitutional. But the concerns that I have are around the fact that we are sitting here pretending as if we all are looking out for the Constitution, yet we are coming from completely different angles. So let me go to Professor Shaw. To be clear, which branch of government is responsible for interpreting what is and what is not legal?
Well, the Supreme Court, the Article 3 judicial branch has the final word.
So the judiciary is who it is. So it's not the legislators.
You know, I'd say every branch has an obligation to interpret the Constitution. The final word comes from the courts.
From the courts. It's not the former speakers. It's not everyday people. It's not the president. I just wanted to make sure that we understood who it was that was responsible. And what is so frustrating for so many of the American people, the ones that are watching right now and otherwise, and the reason that they're outraged and scared is because what we see right now is a diminishing of all these institutions. Right now, we have a legislative branch that has decided that it intentionally would disregard their duties. They are not checking the president whatsoever. The only check that the American people have had thus far has been from the judiciary. And the judiciary isn't pulling this out of the sky. In fact, they are coming from basic reading of like the plain language of the Constitution for all of those that are constitutionalists when we start talking about things such as what birthright citizenship is. But one of the things that I want to make sure that I get to, because there are deeper implications if we go down this rabbit hole. Imagine the type of world where the president does whatever he wants to and no one can rein him in. It's a world that right now many people are afraid of. Let me put it this way. If Joe Biden would have done an executive order for abortion, despite what the Supreme Court said, that would have been a problem. Imagine if the state of Colorado kept Trump off the ballot and other states follow suit. That would have been a problem. Or imagine if Jack Smith ignored Eileen Cannon and with the help of an activist judge decided that he was going to prosecute the sitting president anyway. The problem that we have right now is that if we continue down this road, then we will not have a rule of law because we have people that are currently serving and they're saying things like, ignore the judge's order.
There has been thought, I believe, given to this. Senator Ron Wyden has already issued statements, for example, advising what we should do in a situation like this, which I concur, which is that I believe that the Biden administration should ignore this ruling. I think that we, the courts have the legitimacy and they rely on the legitimacy of their rulings. And what they are currently doing is engaged in an unprecedented and dramatic erosion of the legitimacy of the courts. It is the justices themselves, through the deeply partisan and unfounded nature of these rulings, that are undermining their own enforcement.
So you're saying the Biden administration should ignore this court, but what does that look like? What does that actually mean?
You know, I think the interesting thing when it comes to a ruling is that it relies on enforcement. And it is up to the Biden administration to choose whether or not to enforce such a ruling.
Do you think Justice Alito, I've heard some people say that Justice Alito should be impeached. Would that go too far?
No. I don't think it would.
You don't think that would open a Pandora's box?
The box is already open, Jonathan. They just don't have control of the Senate as well as control of the White House. Although the impeachment is just the Senate. But listen, I don't think that we'll have the filibuster if the Republicans get a hold of the Senate again. You know, Democrats hide behind so many traditions, not laws, but traditions, even when we start talking about appointments to the courts. I mean, it's amazing that the president has been able to do what he's done. But guess what? We've got a ton of vacancies in the state of Texas, and we can't get them because of blue slips. Blue slips are a tradition. They are not law. And basically what we see in the South, where a lot of these terrible cases are coming from, is Republican senators say, no, you can't have any appointments in our state. We're going to hold on until a Republican is in. And then they decide to forum shop and send all their crazy cases to the crazy judges in the South and then take it up through the Fifth Circuit. And then we know what happens when he gets to the Supreme Court.
Listen to these numbers, and we've shared them before. 67% of all injunctions issued by district court judges against a president since the year 2000 were issued against one man, and his name's President Donald J. Trump. 92% of those injunctions against the president were issued by Democrat-appointed judges. There's a problem. I've mentioned before, I was a constitutional law litigator, routinely would run into judges that I would describe as activists, but it was much more rare than it is now, and it's a problem that has been noted needs to be addressed. Under the existing framework, one singular district court judge out of 677 of them, anywhere in America, can subvert the will of the duly elected president carrying out his constitutional duties. And they're doing that. And so we've got to step into this. Despite the American people's wholesale rejection of Democrat ideas at the ballot box, you have activist judges who are abusing the system to legislate from the bench. That's effectively what an activist judge is. This is not how the system our founders designed is supposed to work. Under our Constitution, we have 3 co-equal branches of government, each with the ability to provide a check on the other. And we do have that authority. Democrats seem to have forgotten that. I mentioned at a press conference or a gaggle, maybe it was last week with all of you, I can't remember so many of these, but somebody asked me repeatedly about, impeachment, and they asked me about our authority under the Constitution. What authority do we have under Article 3? The Congress is given the authority to determine, define, fund all lower courts. Only the Supreme Court has mentioned itself in the Constitution, and the lower courts are within the purview of the Congress. And I was asked, and I offered the answer, yes. I mean, we could defund those courts. I wasn't saying, let me clarify, I wasn't saying that we're doing that. I was trying to describe what the Constitution says. Go read it for yourselves. We have broad scope. We have all authority over the lower courts, okay? We're not defunding courts, and we're not doing anything other than limiting in this legislation the ability of a judge to issue a nationwide injunction, because that is the problem that has gotten totally out of control. And we need this check on the judiciary, and I think we're going to prove that on the floor.
Hides in plain sight. Epstein was hiding in plain sight. We all knew about him. We all knew what he was doing. But we had no one that was, legal aspect that would go after him. They were afraid of him.
So as Elon Musk's Doge dives into government waste, government corruption, money laundering, some might say, it seems that a certain scandal has broken out involving Senator Whitehouse and his wife, Mrs. Whitehouse. From Libs of TikTok, at Libs of TikTok. Bombshell! Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat from Rhode Island, backed legislation that funneled millions to his wife's environmental nonprofit, Ocean Conservancy. She's been paid nearly $2.7 million, while the group raked in over $14.2 million in federal grants funded by bills Whitehouse voted for. Now an ethics watchdog is calling for an investigation into this blatant corruption. And there you've got that smug little bastard smiling, and here you've got Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Rhode Island. Dear Senator Langford and Senator Coons, the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust, FACT, is a non-profit organization dedicated to promoting accountability, ethics, and transparency in government and civic arenas. We request the Senate Select Committee on Ethics investigate Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Rhode Island, to determine whether he violated the Senate ethics rules on conflicts of interest. Facts: Senator Whitehouse's wife, Sandra Whitehouse, has worked for the advocacy group Ocean Conservancy since 2008. According to tax filings, Ocean Conservancy has paid Sandra Whitehouse through her consulting firm Ocean Wonks LLC since 2017 and paid her directly prior to that. Since 2008, Ocean Conservancy has been awarded 19 government grants worth approximately $14.2 million. However, nearly half of this $14 million was given to the group in the fall of 2024 alone, all of which Senator Whitehouse directly voted for. Is Whitehouse wife on Ocean Conservancy with the typo? Yes, Sandra Thornton Whitehouse, the wife of U.S. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, has been involved with Ocean Conservancy. She has served as a senior policy advisor for the organization since 2008. Before that, she worked directly for Ocean Conservancy and later through her consulting firm Ocean Wonks LLC, which she founded in 2017. She continued to provide expertise on ocean policy and marine science. Her work focuses on advancing ocean health and sustainability, aligning with Ocean Conservancy's mission to protect the ocean through science-based solutions. And on the issue of how much she received, directly or indirectly, Ocean Conservancy has paid Ocean Wonks LLC, a consulting firm led by Sandra Thornton Whitehouse, a total of approximately $2,628,654 from the fiscal year ending June 2010 through June 2022, according to tax-available documents. These payments reflect Sandra Whitehouse's role as one of the nonprofit's 5 highest paid consultants during this period, primarily for her expertise in ocean policy. Well, isn't that nice to have such an expertise that you get paid handsomely through these not-for-profits? It seems that some people are indeed making a profit through these not-profits, but that is one relevant piece of information in this puzzle. The other is whether or not her husband was actually voting on issues that related to granting funds to that company that would then be funneled to his wife.
So today, Trump removed many of the tariffs he had imposed in this on-again, off-again, it must be Wednesday, tariffs are off again kind of policy. This has just wreaked havoc on the markets, of course, but there is another profound danger as well, and that is insider trading within the White House, within the administration. You may have seen early in the day Trump tweet this. Now, this is a good time to buy. So the question is, between that tweet and Donald Trump's announcement that he was reducing the tariffs on most other nations apart from China, the question is, who knew what the president was going to do? And did people around the president trade stock knowing the incredible gyration the market was about to go through? Because look, this is a president who is trading in his own meme coin even as he's president. His kids are trading in their own cryptocurrency. You've got people like Elon Musk who are doing their own conflicted self-dealing in the administration. In any administration this corrupt, it is more than necessary to ask, were people personally profiting from insider information while people's savings, their retirement accounts, were being torched? So we're writing to the White House to demand answers. Now, I am fully cognizant of the fact that the White House is probably the last place to be forthcoming about this or any other corruption in the administration. We in Congress need to do more than demand answers. We need to do the oversight necessary to get those answers. To date, Republicans have not been willing to do this. Not when it comes to insider trading, potentiality, not when it comes to anything. But we have been very fortunate in the minority that so many whistleblowers have come forward with information about corruption in the administration. Just a few days ago, I held a hearing with people who had to quit the Justice Department, were fired at the Justice Department because they were observing corrupt activity that they would not participate in. We have tremendously benefited from courageous people coming forward. So we invite whistleblowers to step forward. But at the end of the day, we're going to get to the bottom of this, whether people were profiting off the pain of the American people.
Look at how many members of Congress outperformed him, and not by 5%, not by 6 or 7 or 10, by 40, 50, 60, 70, up to 149% annual returns. Warren Buffett has been doing this for 60 years. He's never had a 149% year. He's never had 105%. He's never. And meanwhile, we have half a dozen members of Congress buying stocks on their cell phones sporadically, outperforming the best year in the history of the best investor who's ever lived. It's like, you know, we don't need Murder, She Wrote to crack this thing open. Clearly, they are cheating this thing.
And let me just opine just for a second on why my Democrat colleagues on the other side are so nervous about all this Doge stuff. It's because this racket that's been used to launder taxpayer dollars to their buddies and their left-wing radical groups, the gravy train is stopping. And it's terrifying to them. But to normal people in real America, they think this stuff is crazy. And finally, we have somebody in the Oval Office with a team who can root this stuff out. So, keep going. We're just getting started with this stuff, and we'll be back next week with more ridiculous things that the Democrats want funded with your taxpayer dollars. I yield back, Mr. President.